Call on me, Valerie, come and see me. I'm the same boy. Have you seen that aerobic video with that song in it? If you haven't, look it up. Call on me, Valerie, Steve Winwood aerobics. Search that. Anyway, Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect game. Starfield has tons and tons of issues. Now, I'm not talking about you watching this video. People who enjoy playing video games, you like what you like. You might like CRPGs, computer RPGs, that are a very different subgenre than most of the RPGs that have been successful on console. How do I know that? Because I've been playing console video games since before most of you have been born or alive, and I've not experienced these types of games. I know about Divinity, Original Sin. I've played some games like this, point and click, very tactical, but they aren't really prevalent on console. It's why something like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance on the PlayStation 2 was something that I recognize as somebody who plays on console. Love that game, an RPG, not like Baldur's Gate 3. I remember the water effects on the PlayStation 2 being incredible back in the day. So that's what most console gamers have been exposed to when it comes to RPGs. Of course, turn-based battles, Final Fantasy introduced that to everybody on console, and a lot of other games before that on console. But nothing like this. And I want to get that out of the way because I'm not talking about people who enjoy playing video games. I'm talking about professional reviews, professional reviewers, professional YouTubers who are just flat out lying. And I don't normally, jump to that, but, I've played Starfield for quite a while, and I've played Baldur's Gate 3 for not a long time, a few hours, enough to know what it is, and enough to know what it isn't, and enough to know that there are issues that have been either completely ignored by the professional reviewers or just glossed over, mentioned because they feel like they have to, so that they can use those same issues to drag down another game and then just sort of move on to the perfect score, or just completely, again, like I said, gloss over them and in some cases not even mention them. So I want to talk about that. So I've been playing Baldur's Gate. I started to play it 15 minutes into the PlayStation 5 version of the game. The audio drops out completely. I'm not talking about, a sound effect. I'm talking about all the audio. The main character, the ambient noise, all gone. Nothing. No idea what's going on. So I quit back to the main menu of the PlayStation 5, go up to Baldur's Gate 3, select it, close it, audible pop on my speakers, go back in, and it works. About a minute and a half later, sound drops out. Do the same thing again, go back in, and it works. About a minute and a half later, sound drops out. 3 times in the first 15 minutes, and yet, it's perfect. It's a perfect game. Now, I understand it's a bug, and they can patch it out. But why isn't this something that is dragging down the score? Why are bugs in other games enough to drag it down when we know that they're going to be patched out also? Why are they glossed over here? Something else that I noticed about this. We're critiquing load screens when it comes to Starfield. Now, this is about Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3, make no mistake. So we're critiquing load screens. Now, I understand if somebody would say, well, Starfield is a game about exploration, about the universe being connected. You hop in your ship, you take off, and you fly anywhere, go anywhere, just like you would in real life. So a load screen kind of draws you out of the immersion. The immersion factor of that game is hindered by a load screen. I understand that, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing load screen, drag the score down. Load screen, take off a point or two. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 on the PlayStation 5. This is a fact. The load screens in Baldur's Gate 3 are longer than they are in Starfield, and yet 97 out of 100. So what is exactly going on? Now, again, let me reiterate. I'm not saying that this is a bad game or that Baldur's Gate 3 is somehow worse than Starfield or Starfield is somehow better. I'm not doing that at all because I can't tell anybody what's better or worse. I only know what's better or worse for me. But what I can do is try and predict a basic framework when it comes to critiquing something like a video game. And if you don't have a basic framework, then what the hell are we doing anyway? So they're both RPGs, but they're very different RPGs. There should be at least a framework in place to review RPGs in a way that's fair. So for instance, if a bug exists in a game and a bug exists in another game and they're both RPGs, irrespective of what kind of RPG there are, the subgenre CRPG or Western RPG, that bug should drag down the initial impression and the score. Yes, if you say to yourself, they're going to patch that out, so why include it in the review score? Fine. But then don't include that bug and that critique in the other review score. You see what I'm trying to say here? It's very strange what's happening, and I've seen a lot of odd behavior when it comes to Starfield, especially as somebody who's played tons of RPGs for years. I'm older than most people making videos on YouTube, and I feel like I don't understand where this is coming from. This is a very, very good game. Does it have issues? Absolutely. Does Baldur's Gate 3 have issues? Absolutely. And yet those issues are not detracting from this universal praise. Something else that you'll notice, and this is how I know that this is a manufactured, I don't want to say manufactured because Larian Studios deserves all the success that they have. Baldur's Gate 3 deserves all the success that it has. I can recognize that it's a very good game. The graphics are very good. The lip sync is very good. Not as good as Starfield. There are some issues with the graphics that I noticed playing it, curiously not mentioned in the reviews. So I'm not saying it's a bad game, but I'm saying reviewers, not you guys, not me, who play video games and talk about them. Reviewers, professional I can't say that word, professional YouTubers are manufacturing this divide because it just drives traffic. It makes absolutely no sense. I've seen YouTubers say Baldur's Gate 3 on the PlayStation 5 is a perfect game. And yet, I've played it on the PlayStation 5 and had tons of issues. What copy of the game did they get? So, of course, it's manufactured. You'll also see people on social media waiting for a Metacritic score to tell you whether or not it's their favorite game ever. Now that it's a 97, ooh, I love this game. This is great. You can't be afraid to go against the grain. Another thing that happens when it comes to video game review scores. This is not a perfect game. The Starfield hate is absolutely insane, and I really, really didn't want to make this video because I know I'm going to fall into that Xbox fanboy moniker with some of you watching this, but I'm telling you, this game, Starfield, is so much better than the review scores are saying it is. I saw a review score, a 5 out of 10. Think about that for a second. A 5 out of 10. And some of the reasonings in this review score were the space combat is impossibly difficult. Again, just like I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I'm having these issues that no one's talking about, I played Starfield. You press up on the left stick to go fast, you pull back on the left stick to go slow, and you move the right stick left, right, up, or down to change direction, folks. What is difficult about that? If you've played Halo, you know how to move around, and then you pull the trigger to shoot. Can you imagine how difficult that would be? And yet somehow those critiques are dragging down the review scores of Starfield, and yet the ball is rolling with the universal praise for Baldur's Gate 3. Let me reiterate. I'm not saying Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't deserve the praise that it's getting. I'm not saying you shouldn't love Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm saying let's be honest. Let's talk about the issues. Let's not overinflate one game. Let's not anoint a game the best game ever. It's almost like somebody started their own religion and Baldur's Gate 3 is the text. It's the tome. It makes no sense. There are issues with this game. A lot of issues. I've run into them within the first 2 hours of the game. Do I think that means that the game is bad? Absolutely not. But we've got to be fair when it comes to critiquing one RPG over another. Here's something else that I think is going to happen. As a console gamer, and I'm a console gamer, I'm not a PC gamer. The only time I had to touch a PC was during the crash in the 80s, and that was to turn on the Commodore 64 to play Tooth Invaders or Raid on Bungling Bay or Impossible Mission, which were all great games. Console gamers are going to purchase this game because of those scores, play it for about 2 hours, and then never touch it again. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There are some of you out there that are going to buy it, play it, and love it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't expand your horizons when it comes to, playing different types of games, but this is a very, very, very different game than console gamers are used to playing. It's the reason that Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance exists. It's a consoleized version of that role-playing franchise. It's a great game, an action RPG, fantastic. This is a computer RPG, lots of inventory management, turn-based, isometric. They don't talk to you about the combat system other than a pop-up window that tells you how to move. They don't talk to you about positioning. They don't talk to you about the buffs. You just get thrown in and you have to figure it out for yourself. And I think a lot of console gamers are going to jump on this because of that Metascore, which is not entirely honest, and then find themselves scratching their heads and thinking, this isn't quite what I thought it would be. And that's okay, but I want to point out the discrepancy in one review score, one critique being something that drags down a score, and the other score being completely ignored when it comes to those same critiques. Not something that I found genuine. Again, it's professional YouTubers who need you to like, need you to subscribe. I don't need either of those. Would it be nice? Great. But you don't have to. Find someone else telling you things that seem honest and follow them. Don't go to the professional review sites, because, at least for me, these two games coming out have really highlighted the issues when it comes to the professional reviews, when it comes to Metacritic in general. It is so overly inflated. It's so overly important. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Think about something. A game of the year can't be a game that scores a 7. Why not? Why not? Why can't Bramble the Mountain King, which is my game of the year, why can't that be a game of the year? Think about it. We have to anoint games as good based on a score from people who are clearly disingenuous. And we know it. And yet, we all gravitate towards it and use it to fight back and forth. It makes no sense. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great game for people who like this kind of role-playing game. Hopefully, Larian can expand its audience with this, now that it's mainstream with these scores on console. And if that happens, fantastic. I'm not saying they don't deserve that success, but I am saying that issues with one game should drag down the review score the same way that those same issues are dragging down the scores for Starfield, which does not deserve it. If you're a hardcore PlayStation fan, I'm sorry, Starfield is a great, great game, and it does not deserve the critiques that it's getting. It is not a 4 out of 10. It is not a 5 out of 10. The same way that it's not a 10 out of 10, and the same way that Baldur's Gate 3 isn't a 10 out of 10 or a 97 out of 100. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This one's going to be hot. Don't care. I can take it. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.